Okay, we'll call this Coventry Select Board meeting to order at 6:01 PM. Let's introduce ourselves.
Dan Webster, board member. Scott Morley, select board.
Matt Maxwell, Town Administrator. Deb, who are you?
Deb Tangway, town clerk, town bookkeeper.
Okay, do we have any changes or additions to the agenda tonight? We don't have any changes, but we're going to add a couple things under other business. Public comment.
I just have one thing to say.
Go ahead, Deb.
Just for the board to be aware, in last Thursday's Newport Daily Express, Deb Lucas, who is in charge of the senior meals in Coventry, she was actually featured in that newspaper. So I know that has no relevance to the town itself, but just being one of our town residents to be highlighted in the newspaper, part front page, and then the remainder of the story later on within it. I just thought that was very nice that she was actually recognized for all of her hard work that she does for that program. And in case you didn't see the newspaper, just let you be aware.
Thanks, Deb. For what was it, senior meals?
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we have a tax sale request. This is coming from the delinquent tax collector, Kate Fletcher. She couldn't be here tonight. She's working out of town. She would like the select board to authorize her to contact the town attorney so that the town attorney can generate letters to the people on her tax sale list.
So she gave us that list,
She gave you you should have seen it in the email.
and it's a fluid list though, right?
It's a fluid list that some of the people are making payments. So some of them she's not worried about, but there's 2 or 3 that she feels like a letter would go a long way into getting them to push them in the right direction, into paying basically.
And that's a standard thing.
We do this every year.
That
Yep.
you
Yep.
should have, the authority to have that discussion,
Yep.
so you want a motion on that?
I would like a motion. Yeah.
I'd make a motion to authorize Kate Fletcher as the delinquent tax collector to communicate directly with the town's attorney relevant to current tax sales.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Okay. Next up, we have the website design. This came from Jethro Heyman. He works on a couple other local area websites. This is something you guys asked me to look into a few meetings ago. I think we can do better on our website. This is sort of I think a cheap way to do it. This guy would do some updating for us. Make everybody's page the way they look like they want to look. Deb has a certain design that she would like for her page. She's going to implement that. And then going forward, I would do most of the updates to the website. So it wouldn't cost us a lot of money. I mean, it'd be an upfront cost, I think about $4,000 for him to sort of reshape everything. And then going forward, I would make the updates, or if there was something I couldn't do, we could pay him a small amount to do it.
I remember I saw this, okay, right there. Yeah. Here's the TVs.
Anytime you need him to do something, it's $80 an hour,
Yep.
So the big hit would be up front, come in and meet with all of you guys. If you-
Yep.
If you're willing to do that.
He is, yep. Already sent him, Deb sent me something a while ago about how she wants her page to look. I've already sent that to him. He said, that's no problem. He can do that.
Okay.
He'll get pictures up there. It'll be more,
Yeah.
less text heavy, more buttons, and it'll look like a modern website.
Yeah,
My only one question, I think absolutely, because I can't wait for my page to actually get designed. So when residents actually go to
Oh,
our
volume here.
our website, they can actually retrieve stuff for them to be able to retrieve. But one thing I've noticed a lot on the listserv, this has actually gone around a lot, where the individual departments do their own changes on the website. Is that something that maybe we should look at? That way, if we want something changed, we just go in, boom, we make the change, it's done. And then it's not feeding it to someone else. I mean, there's some towns who are doing that. Some towns are doing it like how Matt is suggesting, how it's sort of been done in the past, where somebody's the only one person who does it. But just throwing that out there is maybe another perspective.
Okay, well, we can talk to them about that, I guess, and see what that looks like. For now, it would be like that. You would end up having access.
Yeah, well, it would be me and David would have access to it to make updates.
To make updates.
Yep.
Okay. And so you're thinking, Deb, or asking, could that be expanded to people, other people?
And from what it sounds like, is like I only have designation to just my clerk page. That's it. I don't have designation to go to David's treasurer page or to the select board's page and make changes. It's just designated per whoever your page is. You have the permission rights to go in there and adjust those pages. So that, you know, when it's election time, I can sit there, I can put up the warning, I can put up the voter checklist, I can put up the sample ballot, not, you know, sending it over to poor Matt or to somebody else and can you update this? And then once the election is done, okay, I need to have that taken back down. But it's also to put the dog renewal forms up on there, put the marriage license forms up there, put the vital records request forms up there, you know, and also a little snippet about each one of those pieces as well.
That's a good point, because a lot of the stuff that's done online is her stuff.
I think that sounds reasonable, and I think maybe to keep some guardrails on that, maybe we could expand and say town officials.
Yeah.
Not employees, not committees, not that stuff, so that there's some guardrails on that. Those other people, if there's issues that they have, would still have to come back through the town administrator. But I think for officials with offices, I think that makes sense. So I think that would be a discussion you could have with Jethro.
Yep.
If we do this, and I think we should.
Right.
Seems logical.
Yep.
And he's willing to pick it up and go.
Yeah, he's ready. He's just waiting for you guys' approval. He's ready to go.
It sounds like she uses it more than anybody, so.
Yeah, kind of common sense.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see, there's money to that one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, it's a $4,000 initial.
Mm-hmm.
Sometime fee. So probably you want a motion on the authorization for this work and $4,000 down payment.
Yep.
And then I don't think that we need to get into it beyond that for that. As needed work.
Nope.
Yep. Makes sense to you?
Yeah. Nice.
So I'll make a motion that the town contract with Jethro Heyman for the website design purposes as we've described today, with the initial cost of $4,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Job. All right. Next up, we have the assessor's contract. You guys should have that, but if you don't, here it is. Back in, let's see, January, February, I was told by the select board to send out an RFP for assessing services, as our current assessing contract expires June 30th of this year. I sent out, I talked with the delinquent tax collector, Kate Fletcher. She gave me a list of 5 or 6 companies, either local or in the state of Vermont or even in New England. We sent a couple out to New Hampshire that provide these services to towns. The only one that sent us anything back was New England Municipal, and they are our current assessors. Their rates went up compared to what we've been paying them in the past few years. The board member missing tonight, Scott Breyer, would like an opportunity to speak. I think with either Bill or Matt about maybe trying to lower some of those rates, but
one of the things that I picked up on when I reviewed that the first time was, let me try to get this right, because I'm coming back into this. So this has been a company that the town has contracted with for 4 or 5 years.
yeah, we had a 3-year contract, and then what did we do, David? Two single-year add-ons?
We've added on
No, we're just in the, this is the end of the initial, okay, so just 3 years then.
3 years.
Yeah,
And
We're searching to make sure, but
so the last contract had a sort of a step increase, same as this one.
same as this. It was a 3, yeah, it was a 3-year.
Year 1, year 2, year
Yep.
3, same as this one. I'm noticing though, the jump from year 3, which would have been last year,
Mhm.
to year 1 of this new one, isn't in line with those percentages of the original contract there.
Correct.
There's boom, 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 boom.
Yes.
And so that's something that caused me to pause, at least to ask that question on why that may or may not be. I know it was on our agenda, but I think Scott Breyer has worked here longer than we have, and I think I'd like to kick that on.
Okay.
To the next meeting, and I think you should reach back to Scott and let him know that we've done that, and the reason initially, I don't think there's any issue with the company. I haven't heard any. It just seems like a big price jump. So I'd like to know why there's such a big price jump.
Okay.
And so if you could reach back to Scott and see if he's interested or wants to, or if he just answer the question. And let him communicate with them and then come back to the next meeting and make a decision.
Okay. Good. All right, next up is auditing services. David?
So we issued a request for proposal for new auditing services. It had a deadline of May 5th. We received 1 reply. And it met all the requirements in terms of what we asked for. Description of services, description of who does what to who and what they're going to do, and that's all kind of boilerplate.
It was like 40 pages, so I didn't print it out.
Look at that. Of course, there's always a kicker, and that's the cost. Is considerably more than what we had been paying. So I sent you the sort of historical background in most of applicable for comparison purposes in the past 5 years. Prior to that, there was ups and downs in terms of spending on auditing services. But we are required to have an audit because we have gotten rid of elected auditors, which every municipality has. The state does require that we hire an auditing firm and conduct an annual audit. I can tell you, the treasurer, that makes a lot of sense. You've got a $14–15 million portfolio here in town. You need to have an audit. Keeps everybody focused and financial well-organized. So that said, we've got this cost schedule that's substantially higher than we have been paying. What I'd ask is a couple things. When I need to make a couple phone calls to a couple other municipalities that are using this firm, we don't have any experience with them, and see what they're paying. Just get some background. on that, if you're okay with that, and then work with Matt on approaching this company, see what we can negotiate. I had a long conversation with Deb Tangway this afternoon about her experience with this company, and they seem to be open to negotiation on the price. Let's leave it at that. I don't know.
It kind of sounds like the assessors, they're the only one to do it, maybe that's why they.
Well,
Or the
I
only ones
used,
that got it.
I used VLCT, for Motley League of Cities and Towns to construct the request for proposal that went out. They had a boilerplate version that I could use. Sat with their finance person for about an hour. I think it was a Zoom session to discuss what's happening in the world of auditing services. That part of it, there's too much work and not enough people to do it. Like, and story for a lot of folks. And I remember she told me, she says, you'll be lucky if you get one response. 8. I guess we were lucky, but the again, it's we're in that kind of hard place where we need the service. Let's see if we can negotiate the price a little bit. Unless you want to pay, unless you want to sign up for it tonight, which is, I'm happy with that as well, but I think we do need to close the deal no later than the end. It's your next meeting in the early June.
June 5th.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go beyond that. We're kind of fiscal year closes June 30th. We need to be situated by then, I think.
What's the numbers we're talking about? The past year's audit cost us,
Last year was 11,200 and change,
okay?
and that was an off contract audit, so it was billable hours. That type of billing approach is what the proposal we have in front of us is as well. So kind of interesting, but now they're proposing the startup at 26,000. And one would expect that the first year of the new auditing firm is going to be higher. Because they have to come in and get all of the background information. Examine all the different funds, get all the different historical information that needs to go in. So you'd expect it to be somewhat higher. Plus they have to hedge their bets against who they're working with. It's a kind of an unknown for a new firm. But you'd expect it after that, especially if you have a long history of good audits, and we do now, that your cost would come down a little bit. So what they proposed is, I think, a little on the high side. Coming in at 26K, and then it goes up from there. So there's, I think there's some room here to maybe get a little bit.
Well, it's over double.
Right. Again, it's a situation where you gotta have it. You know, could we go back to the guy we've been using all these years? Maybe. Is it really in the town's best interest to get a second, get another firm in here and do some audits separately? Yeah, it'd be kind of it's. Get a different set of eyes on books.
So it must be the last auditor who just went talk about 3 years, but it must be
It was
5.
5 years.
Yeah, so he's been here for 5
It was
years
a 3-year contract and then 2 years.
and then 2 years. Well, okay, yeah. So he came right after Brian.
He did.
Okay. Seems like a lot of money in that. From 11 to 26.
Let me and Dave talk to him.
And I agree with the premise of, changing up. Always, I really do. 5 years is a good number. It seems kind of healthy. I remember having those discussions way back when. But it's an expensive change this time. And you just didn't have any other nibbles.
I did not, and I in fact mailed the RFP to, and I was just counting, there are 9 different firms that do municipal work in the state of Vermont. I emailed prior auditing firm as we were finishing up the previous audit and really gave them the, hey, we'd really like to hear from you again on an upcoming session. The board is happy with the work we've done. But no such luck.
So, you're thinking maybe take a little time out, you can call some of those other towns that are seemingly similar to us and find out what they're paying. Which would give you
I know
information,
exactly one at the moment, and they probably can ferret out 1 or 2 more.
which would sort of give you some information for them making the call and negotiating
There's
potentially.
one more background.
Yeah.
We're probably getting a rack rate, basically, moving that term.
Yeah.
If you walk into a hotel and just order up a room, you're gonna get a rack rate. What I don't know with this is how much of this is assumption of, hey, we were reading the newspapers way back when.
Yeah.
And we're in chaos and we got it.
Yeah.
And haven't since had an update on, oh, by the way, we're 5 successful audits later, things have changed dramatically.
Yeah.
And the workload is not. And the risk. Not one of them.
Well, I'm in favor of that, sort of, same thing, slow down a little bit, we have a little bit of time, slow down. Push
Yep.
it back to you guys,
We've got 3 weeks.
use Deb. She,
Yeah, Deb, you have the most auditing experience dealing with auditors. Are we gonna get ourselves in trouble by not closing the deal quickly? Or, is it reasonable to hang on until early June before we sign up?
Yep, concur.
Okay.
so you think it's okay if we stall a little bit here for a week or two?
Mhm.
Okay,
I wouldn't probably go too much further than that because then you don't really want them going in the complete opposite direction.
I think they'll understand it, you lay out here what we've been spending, it's like we've got some concerns over double. Have that discussion if there's concern on their end about what they may be walking into.
Right, I can show, here's your risk
Yeah.
mitigation at the audit reports from your
Yeah,
fellow auditors down the street.
right. Okay,
And sometimes a good basis to start with is, I don't know if you already did this or not, David, possibly I'm thinking not, but if you could print off a trial balance and send him the trial balance, so then he can actually see exactly what we have for different accounts, what we have for different funds, the dollar amounts that are in each one. Because then based on that, they sort of have an idea, okay, they've got, 125 expenses, or do they have only 25 expenses they post to? Do they have, 3 different revenue accounts, or do they have 25 different revenue accounts? Because with the hard piece comes in, like we have all these different checking accounts. You have to do a cash disbursement testing where they're going to say, okay, where's your starting check number? Where's your ending check number in that account during your fiscal year? You give it to them, they come back, they're going to say, okay, we want to see all of these different checks. So on average, maybe per month, we typically can issue maybe 35, say, checks. You take 35 times 12, they're probably going to come back and request to see at least half of those checks. So, I mean, it is quite the process that they go through to make sure that, yes, here's a check written out to Scott Morley for $1,200. Was that check actually written out to Scott Morley? Where's the invoice? We want to see a copy of the check that came back from the bank, not for what we issued, but what came back from the bank showing this check number was written for this dollar amount. to Scott for 1,200. But at least that may give them a little bit idea of what they're playing with versus this unknown. We have no clue what their charter
Yeah,
accounts.
that's a good point. Yeah, we only use one checking account.
Yeah.
Very good point. And that might help that whole discussion. I would be very comfortable allowing or asking Deb, if you want to participate in that as, select board bookkeeper, puts you into that, at that table, if it works out for you, and,
Yeah, maybe we can schedule a call on Thursday.
and, some of that expertise I just heard, is good, is valuable, and I think you're suited for that, from that position, so if you're willing to do that, then
Yep, no, absolutely.
the three of you can all sit down and learn from each other and try to hammer this guy down a little bit. So I do.
Yeah.
And then I guess all with the thought that the next meeting, we
You're gonna be approving of auditing.
make this decision, be prepared to.
And I mean, there's also the potential that in the interim that I'm coming back to you as a finance select board rep with anything they are asking, right? So normally it could be a two-way thing. If we're asking for reduce that, they may ask for more years or some other consideration that.
Yeah, I guess I would say. I'm confident that the three of you together can think through all that stuff and position us best that you can, and that, we're gonna be able to authorize what you come up with. I mean, we have to have something. So do your best. I'm confident. We'll keep. Make it happen, Dave.
First, none of us show up at the next select board meeting. And then you get to argue. There you go. Okay, so. Tabled until the next.
Yep.
All right, next up, we have the treasurer's report with David Barlow.
Man, I'm gonna be a horse. They have a copy. of-
They do, yes, they have the first page.
Okay. So let's delve in just a little bit because it's a little bit different from what you might normally see. Looks like there wasn't any reserve fund spending, or very little, $45, and that's accurate. There was a legal bill associated with the reappraisal of the landfill, that $45. But what happened, you look at the general fund checking line, which is up towards the top, and you see expenses and transfers. I've relabeled it temporarily to include transfers of 109,257,061 if you take out the reserve fund piece. So a little bit, it's a little strange, and I don't normally have much of, but transfers from the general fund into reserve funds. We had a $50,000 grant from the Vermont Preservation Trust Fund. Vermont Preservation Trust Fund. And we've had that grant for many years, but we finally executed it when we did a bunch of roof work over on the former church, now the meeting house. And we got that grant paid out to us. And we receive all our money typically into the general fund. And then I move it into a reserve fund if it's for a reserve. So in this case, it was a building and maintenance type of function, replacing the roof. We paid out actually from the buildings and maintenance fund when we actually paid the contractor that did it. That Preservation Trust grant came in and I put it back into the buildings and maintenance reserve fund.
Just my only question on that would be. I like the idea that it's replenishing what has been spent from. The reserve fund. But my only question would be that a legal one, which is. We have the legal authority to expend special funds. But I don't know that we would have legal authority to replenish them without a town vote.
Not from. You know, in a typical town, not from tax raised funds that are in the general. But we've had this conversation with the attorneys. When this actually was this, I think it was this specific grant when it came in now 3 years ago. About where it could go once it was received, and that response was back into the reserve. Also had the conversation with the auditor. The auditor has with this, so I was confident that that was a legal move.
Because it was clearly defined enough that the grant was for that very specific purpose.
It was
And so it was that clean, so
very specific. You could spend it on very specific types of work on that building, which included some of the painting and the roof work. All of which amounted to more than $50,000.
so would that be a similar train of thought on roads? When we get grant money back,
Yeah,
when we get grant money from the state on roads, whatever.
it depends on what it's for. But if it's road
Have we done that?
infrastructure work, we have.
Okay.
That's for culvert engineering, for example, that we pay for out of an infrastructure, the infrastructure reserve fund. And yes, we actually have very little of that, like the bridge, when we replace the bridge, that can go back into an infrastructure.
This is a clean, sort of like a
It's
clean.
clean because it's exactly it's laid out what it's for.
Okay,
But if we get just general road money for class 3 roads, no, that goes into the road
it's a more specific to a project.
operations.
Okay. And it sounds like you've run that by them anyway, that you pushed that scenario back.
And the auditor. And the auditor, in fact, looks at every grant. Over 10,000. Looks at every grant every year that's over 10,000. We've looked at that Vermont Preservation Trust for 3 or 4 years now. Look. There was some other money that also, my base point here was that, I mean, you see the expenses and transfers of 109,000, 60,000 of that roughly was transfers, and 40,000 was expenses. So a 40,000 expense month for the town is pretty normal spending. And if you want to see exactly what that is, when you look at the full report, which I think that emails to you,
Yes,
the second page of the report is always the reconciliation of the general fund, and it leads off with all the checks that we received that were cashed. You can just look down that list of checks and get a real good feel for what the town is spending just month to month, what they're spending their money on. So in this particular report, we've got roughly 60,000 of money going back into the reserve funds. I think the other piece of that was the reappraisal fund. We got money from the state. We get an annual allotment from the state for reappraisal funding. So I misspoke earlier this afternoon, Scott said that was a few hundred. Actually, it's just a few thousand, which is better than a few hundred. But, you know, 5,900. That went into the reappraisal. So anytime you look at the revenue side of a reserve fund or restricted fund, as we call it, anything that is more than a few $100 is money coming in from the transfer. The little amounts, tens or hundreds of dollars, bank interest.
I got a question on the ARPA fund.
Sure.
Unobligated balance 280.
This is prior to your meeting on May 1st. So the day after, the end of this report, you've obligated a whole bunch of it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Do I have that number off the top of my head? I do not, but I want to say it's like 220. Ish, it's a total of the total, so that includes the 35. So I think you're somewhere sitting around in that 80 to 90,000 unobligated.
More than a verbal discussion, but okay, so we'll need to tune that in here right off. Right,
Mhm.
because we're gonna be talking about salt shed construction.
Salt shed. Got a,
Yeah,
got an engineering project on Pine Hill coming up.
20K on there already.
We had salt shed on there for.
We did the salt shed concrete.
Yeah, just the concrete aspect of it.
Mhm.
We're gonna have the construction part aspect of it, with the construction piece of the salt shed, but I forgot about that. Is that in your business?
Yes, it's coming up under other business.
Okay.
Yeah, I did put this number. You've got, you've obligated 262,000 of it. Of 315, so you're in the 50-ish, 50K, 60K range of.
That's what I remember. Yeah, okay. All right.
So, if, those are the main points I want to make in the report. On the investment side, there's nothing really to report there other than it was another month.
Seems like you did well.
Over an infinite time horizon, 1 month, nothing. So- I know it, it's outside the, it didn't actually happen in May, but I finally got the Microsoft share certificates that we had lost, found again. Those are now turned back into Microsoft, and we finally, for first time in 20-something years, have normal shareholders. They're just on the books.
Do I dare ask where we found
Well, they were in this file.
them?
Just,
You don't know.
however.
But it's done.
It's done.
It's done.
We got
And for the past couple of years, I've been sitting in the vault, or the past year, waiting for me to do something. I finally did it. Yeah. FedEx in, and
So we now have electronic.
we now have electronic, which
Shares.
means that we can then proceed the next step to what the giver of these funds actually asked us to do back in 2001, which is sell them and put them in a diversified low-cost mutual fund. So at some point, we can do that.
Yeah.
I'm not proposing to do it right now.
But it's an option now.
Because we've been, the school has been expending out of that fund for books for the past 2 or 3 years. And we've been paying them out of the dividend we accumulated over the years. But we're eventually going to run out of cash to pay them, so we are going to do something with the shares. It's a good advantage story. The good news out of this whole thing is Microsoft shares have done incredibly well for the past 22 years, so you know, way more money than them ever did.
Yep.
So with that, I will conclude. If you don't have any questions, go ahead.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, on their other business, we got a few things to knock out here. First one is a pole position request from Vermont Electric. They want to move a pole. They need you guys to sign that document saying it's okay for them to do that. John brought that to me. He's good with it. I didn't really question too much on it because I don't know too much about it, but
So I talked with John very briefly today about it. Essentially, what he said was there's a mobile home down here on Main Street that the power company needs to put another pole in its service, the power there. And they need our, authorization to go overhead across Main Street.
Okay.
I think it. All this is, it's not, anything other than that, so, I don't really issue with it. He has to sign
I
it.
just need you to sign it and give it back to me. I'm gonna mail it tomorrow with your signatures. We'll have John sign it in the morning.
I was just gonna say that, yeah, it's, he should run it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have the healthcare reimbursement policy. What's gonna happen is every meeting from here forward until we get through all of the policies, you're gonna see one town policy per meeting on the agenda. What you do with that policy is really up to you guys. If you want to make an update to it, or if you just want to say this is good and we're aware of it, then that's fine. If you want to tell me to make changes to it and then bring it back so you can approve it, we can do that. But the goal here is to familiarize everybody with the policies and make sure that we're adhering to them.
I like it, that's good business, we're talking about how many-ish,
12.
yeah, so it's not all that many. So
No.
we just do one every meeting. I would only say to that, thank you for starting us out with an easy one. It's all good. Second piece would be Scott Breyer's not here tonight. So I think I'm comfortable, two of us dealing with healthcare reimbursement policy. It's been in existence for 20 years. Ish. It's never changed. People are accustomed to what it is. If you read it over, there's no big thing for you,
Nope.
right? So I don't forecast there being an issue.
Okay.
I think I would just ask you to know the group, that meeting, so if one of us is gone, depending on what that issue is to be mindful of that. I don't think we should be signing finance documents and personnel documents and those sorts of things without the full board present. But as far as this whole club reimbursement policy goes, I am perfectly willing to go ahead and deal with that a bit on tonight, if you were.
Yeah.
You want a motion on that?
Yep.
I'll motion to go ahead and reauthorize, what should we say, approve?
Yeah.
The health club reimbursement policy for the town as of this date.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Thank you. All right, next up, we have, not fine, Coventry Station Road. If anybody's noticed it, where it intersects with River Road, it's falling off the road.
I had a chance to talk to John about that too. I know you have.
Yep,
So
this is gonna tie into the next thing we're gonna talk about, but this is basically something to get us through until we can fix it for real.
you know what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's been an issue for years and years. They used to
Yeah,
fix it. We're putting more, gravel
I'm
on it.
thinking of Pine Station, but not Pine Hill.
no, Coventry Station, right by River Road, right where, right where, I mean, it's,
Breaking off. And so
John says it's getting
when
dangerous.
it's hard, it's obviously, it's not as easy dumping with gravel. So it's dangerous. So David had contracted with DuBois and King
Mm-hmm,
engineers to come and take a look at that essentially. And so I misunderstood originally, which is why I was trying to put the brakes on stuff. They gave us a contract for 15,000.
18,000.
18,000 originally, bore a couple of holes, come out and give us a scope for the work that was necessary. They did a site visit.
Correct.
They then gave us a new contract with a much bigger price tag, which was
25,000.
is 25,000. I had thought that we had already, that was in addition to, but now I'm understanding that's not in addition. to.
It's not, they haven't, well, I mean,
We haven't.
whatever, they're gonna charge us for that day they were up there. I don't know what it's gonna be,
Alright.
but it's not gonna be
It's
$18,000.
not the 18,
No,
then the 20.
because they didn't do anything.
Okay.
They just looked and said,
Alright.
you got a problem here.
A little more time. Problem is that all of that work isn't going to be quick enough. to Keep the road safe,
Right. Hence,
which is why. John has gone to this piece of work to say, Greg, you gotta come. Overcoat this, fix this for safety reasons for now, until we can get. The bigger project. He also verbally expressed, well, we could just grind it. Grind the tire and go back and throw some gravel on it, but that cost is. The same for it, he thought maybe potentially even a little more than just doing this. We're not top coating that road this year.
not the
right?
bottom
That's already
part.
top coated. And so it's not impacting our overall paving projects in there. So I guess we're put in a position where we gotta do this for now. And then you've got.
Next one's coming next.
Alright, so. They finally got me in favor of it today because I now understand those moving parts, I guess, and
It sounds like the only thing to
I
do.
think the only thing we can do. We just have to do that. And if we authorize this tonight, you're gonna get it right to John. and
You're gonna authorize me to sign it, or one of you guys is gonna sign it. And then I'm gonna send that to Mark tomorrow morning.
Alright. And then we get him going together and get it done.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Okay, that's,
And that's both of them.
yep,
Oh, this is what they're.
that's the second part. So that's Dubois and King. So that says right there what our problem is and what they've got to come back and do. And right now, they're waiting to hear back from me. So it's up to you guys. If you want me to call them up tomorrow morning and say, go ahead and drill those holes, or
It still doesn't read quite right. It does say the cost of these additional services is 25,000.
do you want me to just check with them on that?
Well,
I mean, I've talked to this guy on the phone.
so
I'm-
you believe,
Yeah,
What do they do?
they come up and drill holes and tell you what your soil's made out of.
And that's it.
Well, no, they'll work up a big thing. They'll get, they'll give you like an engineering thing. I mean, it'll be a freaking 20 days, like something like this, and they'll say, you gotta go in there and cut all those trees down and dig all that bank out, put boulders in the bottom, build it up like it should be built up, so it won't fall apart.
So what I learned on this today and speaking with John was, by the way, John's doing a very good job.
He's doing a fantastic job.
He really seems to be into this and know what he's talking about, and I think, his experience with Dave was great.
Mhm.
So anyway, what he walked me through today was, they consider this to be a total bank failure. Which is the bank base, you look way down in there, is the root of the problem, and it's just all sort of settling and going. It's not new, it's been occurring for a decade or more, and David Gallup had spent countless time trying to keep us going on it, and has. He did work, he dig down in, put a keyway or whatever, all those things are crazy things are called. And it got us by again, but it's still not gonna stop it. And so this company is not, doesn't need to be that company, but this scope of engineering is what town needs for the state then to be able to accept the project grant money. In order to help us with the funding of it, they are not just gonna say, go do a whole bunch of work and we'll pay for it.
They need an engineer
They need
Yep.
this level of scope of work at the engineering area in order to then get the proper contract and do that type of work. And then they would help us.
Right, and we want those grants because this will be expensive.
This is like huge expensive.
It's gonna, it'll be $1 million by the time, or close to it.
Yeah.
So
This is the big, the thing on the bank.
it's, yeah, at least 80.
So, that's just where we're at. So you don't have anything here for us to sign.
No, that's just, you just need to say. Or make a motion that I can,
I would just. I don't know why I'm still cautionary on it, but I would just say, I think we should authorize you to communicate back and make very clear what the total scope of the cost is at this level. It's not because we already had a contract,
right,
so you gotta nullify that. You gotta,
right, that's garbage.
you gotta get that in writing,
Yep,
and I don't see that here.
no, but I have the contract, the old one.
Yeah. And just be more clear on the expense to this, so that it doesn't come out of the blue on us like so many things you.
Right, okay,
And then I think we should authorize you to do that and sign for us. If they're gonna send us a new one.
you'll send me a new
Or
one.
amend it or whatever they
Yep.
wanna do. You just need to make sure for us, if you would, that that's clean and it's the $25,000 total project.
Yep.
And we should give you the authority. We can give you the authority. to do that for us.
Okay.
If you're all right with that.
Yep.
That's done.
Yep,
And then we can just build from there. We're not, go through all the steps
Yep.
along the way.
okay, that's it for that. Now you guys have a couple sets of minutes to approve.
Yep.
Yep.
Make a motion to. Accept to approve the select board meeting minutes for Friday, the 14/2023.
Second.
All in favor?
I.
Good.
It's a little longer. I'll make a motion to approve and accept minutes of the select board meeting for Monday, May 1st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. And now you have the warrants.
So. Some of these I saw before.
Only two of them have actual checks.
Only two do that?
Yeah.
Here.
No, I can't either.
You need me to holler?
That's more like what we're used to right there. Oh, that's the one I wanted to talk to Deb about.
What one?
Vault shelving.
Who?
Vault shelving. That
Oh, yeah, oh, that was pre-approved before you.
was approved before you got on board. It's gone.
That was pre-Morley.
Yeah.
Hey, we had this discussion though, not that long ago downstairs.
Yeah, you did good on that, just $10,000.
Yes. Hey, we're using that money.
How did we pay for that?
That came out of the reserve account for buildings.
Building and maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how it was originally approved.
I understand, good job, Deb. I
But
always
you
buy
should
5
wait to
away.
see. Once my vault is all set back up, oh, what a huge difference.
Does look really nice.
Are you done in there now, or we got more coming?
Well, I think downstairs we're gonna be sort of pretty good, but we will need to have a discussion as far as upstairs, the closet right around the corner.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you mentioning that, and that's for shelving and all that.
Yeah. I mean, that has heating in there that doesn't even have register components on it. It's just the actual iron pipe. Yeah. I'd say some of that shelving's probably like that road you were just talking about.
Now, what did we used to spend money on? You used to have to spend some money on, was it historical documents or document care or?
Preservation. Within the
Okay.
budget, we have $1,500.
Okay,
If we do not place that in the budget, then every single time I receive recording, $4 of the $15 fee we charge per paid is supposed to be allocated.
You guys signed them all,
we
right?
do A flat fee of $1,500,
Yelled
we
at
just
if you
have to
didn't.
spend that. Of course, during COVID, I really did not get any of that done, so you guys made out because you guys got to refurnish that money extra wherever you wanted. But this year I'm enacting it before July 1st. So I can use my $1,500 to get going back on to get some more of the other items back to where they should be.
okay, yeah, I remember you.
But that's separate.
Okay, and that's a budget line anyway.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that's a requirement. That's state requirement.
All right,
Now, how come you didn't ask about the dog boarding invoice?
I kind of knew about it. What do you want to tell me about it?
Well, that is something that for your June 5th meeting, I don't know if this is one of the policies. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't know if this is one of the policies that Matt has on his list, but the dog ordinance.
Yeah,
That is one that I actually want to bring to the board at that meeting. Of course, due to COVID, everything got a little bit slacked around that area. We really need to get our butts back going in enforcing that. And I finally got our pound keeper back on board to get going back and enforcing that. Pre-COVID, we generally had about 190 dogs that were registered. Right now, we're at 135. So we have got a lot of dogs, and it's not that these are dogs that are just new that have come into town. These are repetitive residents who have 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 dogs. Where Renee has been to their place and said, hey, you need to go get those dogs registered. Yep. And it never happens. So we are going to go through and revise our current dog ordinance, really beef it up a little bit more compared to some of the other local small towns for what they have around placed into theirs, which basically is stating, you know what, this is per state statute. Your dog needs to be registered. It's going to be registered. Or you're going to have the fees of registering your dog and additional costs on top of that. One change that Renee had mentioned that she would like to see Coventry. Basically, our dog ordinance really only covers the village of Coventry. It doesn't cover, like my property. It doesn't cover like Morley's property. It doesn't cover Webster's property because you're not within the village. What she really wants to do is like what the other towns are. That dog ordinance policy should be town-wide, not just village-wide, because we are starting to have a lot of neighbors who are disputing. And of course, a lot of them have dogs, and those dogs do not stay on their property. They open up the door, they let the dogs out, the dog's going on the neighbor's property. They're calling Renee, their dog is doing its business on my property. And we need to really get that streamlined for Renee because she's starting to get a lot of calls of that nature. Two, we are seeing a lot more dogs who are just being let out. They're being let out. They're getting lost. We have owners who are posting on Facebook, hey, my dog is lost. If you happen to see it, please let me know. Or you have Joe down the street who has found these two dogs in the middle of the road, making a post, hey, here's these two dogs found in Coventry. Please share so that we can try to find who their owners are. Easy part is if all dogs are registered, that wouldn't be bad. But we have a lot of dogs that are not registered. So then when Renee is sending me messages on the weekend, hey, do you know whose this dog is? There's no tags. We really have no clue of knowing whose dog that is. Or just like this past weekend, she made a post of this poor animal, this one dog that ended up going in the road and ended up getting hit and was just left for dead on the side of the road in Coventry, which then she made the post on Facebook. This is just, I want the family to be able to have closure to know where their dog is. It's just becoming such a huge issue. And for some of our residents, even for Renee to just go and say, hey, you need to register your dog, she leaves, nothing happens. We need to be a little bit more enforceful, which one thing I am going to suggest is when I do go to give Renee my final naughty doggy list, I'm sending out notices this Thursday as far as, okay, this is your last chance. You need to come in, you need to register your dog. If not, then what I would honestly like to see is with Renee is have a sheriff go out with her, and she is going to go to those homes that have not done it and to the homes who we know they do have a dog and they do not register their dog. Because I think having the sheriff go, not to initially write, a warning or to give a fine, but I think just that presence is going to be okay. You know what? We're really starting to crack down. It's been loosey-goosey for the last 3 years. There's a lot more issues that are starting to rise up. So straight across the board, there's a lot of dog problems that are going on right now.
Well,
I hope my dog's registered.
Yes, they are.
That's been my wife. So, I would say generally speaking, Deb, I agree with all of that. But when we're dealing with an ordinance and not a policy, that's a little more work. And when we start in the same breath talking about an update to an ordinance and sort of almost a quick and hurried reaction to it and enforcement of it, that's likely to be confrontational.
Yeah.
Significantly confrontational, and I get it, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do that,
Yeah.
but I think we probably ought to. I think You threw some dates out. Why did you throw some dates out? You said June something?
Well, just to get the process started.
Just to get it
Because
going,
Renee and
okay.
I are going through the ordinance and just sort of tweaking it for what we would like to have it changed. Like first, number one, it needs to be town-wide and not village-wide. Whoever has dogs outside the village still needs to make sure they take care of their dogs. They have their dogs hooked up. Their dogs stay on their property. They're not going on the neighbor's property, and they're just not going down the road, you know, to
Yeah.
either on the main highway or whatever. That is just to start the discussion as far as what we would like to see as far as changes, and you'll have the ordinance as far as where it is intact, and then what we have made for changes. So what we have stricken out, you're gonna see, and what we have placed in, we're gonna see. But that's just a start in time. That's just a starting piece for discussion, because we
Okay.
are having some big dog issues, and we do need to take some kind of corrective action. As to what point, we can always work on that, but we just gotta let some people know, especially some of these residents where Renee has been there for the last 2 years. Every single year, you need to register your dog. They don't come in to register them.
So why
We
don't
have
we,
one person who we actually pay money to on a monthly basis who has not come in and registered their dogs. So it's,
so why don't we now, plan to put the dog ordinance on the second?
That's not a policy, you know.
Well, I know,
That's-
but, we gotta do it.
Right, but
It's gonna
it's a
take quite a
different,
bit of time.
it's a different type of thing.
It is.
yeah,
Okay, well, we'll have to talk.
We'll have to talk, let's talk about that before we,
Because we're gonna wanna see this, we're gonna wanna see the current
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
what the new thinking is, and I don't know if I wanna jump in that fast with both feet without a lot of town.
let's get a motion on these warrants.
oh,
Stack them.
They're over here, they've been over here, you guys signed them all.
Yeah, you don't wanna read, yeah, you don't need that specific.
No.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve as received here the warrants for accounts payable and for payroll.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Great.
yeah, because otherwise you're gonna see more invoices like that from Renee for $630. Which is a big ouch that we technically really do not have within the budget.
all right, so I'll ask, what I'll do is say, Matt, why don't you send me a copy of the current, or send it all of us.
Mhm.
And then get it on our desk, so we can start reading that and we're more prepared for you.
Yeah, no,
And then,
that was just to get the discussion started.
you did it. Congratulations again.
All right, adjourn us.
Motion to adjourn.
Very good at 7:10.
Woo, that's a quick meeting.
Thank you, Deb.
Thanks, Deb.
Bye, have a good one.
Thank
Bye,
you,
David.
David.